Hi, everybody. This is 1,201 days. 1,201 days. I think it's a little bit more than that, though. So let's go on Facebook and see if I'm on. Okay. Looks like I'm on. There it goes. Okay. Great. Thank you. All right. So thank you, everyone, for coming on. 1,201 days since Richard vanished from the barracks there at Fort Bliss in El Paso, Texas. And I have in front of me a big stack of county clerk clerk information about the night of January 25th, 2020, the setup DUI, and it has a lot of interesting names in it that we have been deciphering and going through and uh, re-looking at. And we really uh, didn't look at this as carefully as we should have in the beginning because we never dreamed that the command would lie to us and betray us to the extent that they have. And they absolutely knew from the pages of this document, which, a lot of it, they put a lot of empty pages in between, to be honest with you. It's pretty clear that Richard, on July 7th, 2020, signed the pretrial diversion, which guarantees dismissal. Of course, he has to do a few things to get that dismissal. And to understand what's happening with his incident, I should say, that he was set up. He was set up in this parking lot, and we're getting information that it was Belen Rocha that called the 911 number, that she called the 911 number, and that she was there for the police that seemingly she knew. And wouldn't it be something if he was a family member, like if he was a Rocha or something like that, and connected to these addresses? I mean, wouldn't that be something if the canine cop was connected like that? Um, but we're been told that she is the one that was waiting there for the cop to point out which car Richard's and what he was sitting in. And the when you read the account, protocols were not followed that needed to be followed by this canine cop. And it was a little bit, there's some ridiculous stuff in there that really point out that, uh, this was needed to be scrutinized. And of course, Richard maintained his innocence all along. But yet, to put someone through that is pretty vile and vulgar. And we know already that this group is vile and vulgar. Um, so they put Richard through this. He maintained his innocence. He was very strong. And he signed a pretrial diversion on July 7th, 2020, which guaranteed the dismissal. So that was his exoneration um, from this setup. And it was then logged into the county clerk's uh, record on July 9th, 2020. And so that's where we got the July 9th date. And so he was exonerated. It was a done deal. It was over with. He did need to do a few things, and that's why the bond agent was important for us to talk to. We wanted to know what his attitude was and everything, and she said, "Oh, he was so sweet. He was so sweet." When I saw that he went missing, my heart was just breaking. I was just saying prayers because, when you asked him to do something, he did everything. He did everything you asked, and just what a sweet guy. That's what she said to us. It made us cry. We were on a walk. I'll never forget it. We were on a little walk and thought, you know what? Let's call the bond agent. And while we were walking, we called her. And that was just an amazing day. We'll never forget it, Rob and I, talking with her. So uh, the point is that Richard was standing strong, and he wasn't bitter. He wasn't mean to people. He was sweet. He was nice. He was doing what he was supposed to do, and he was exonerated. And the command didn't tell us. Didn't tell us. We've had to figure it all out ourselves. And this is they're predators. They're predators, and they prey on the people that they are supposed to be defending because they know that some of us are ignorant, some of us don't have time to, or some of us are better at other things. We do other things rather than to read through all the legal um, papers and understand all the legal rhetoric. Maybe we're busy baking. Maybe we're busy roofing a house. Maybe we're busy doing carpentry work, than to do the legal stuff. And we depend on them to inform us. That's why we pay them our tax money. We depend on them to defend us. We depend on them to inform us. The SJA McGee, Colonel McGee. We even called him PP McGee. Sorry, but we did, and there's reasons for that. And we were always very respectful. That was just between us. But I have to drop that because, um, it just shows. It just shows that when you're ugly on the inside, you're ugly on the outside. And he was very ugly on the outside. He was very ugly in the inside. Because this SJA, this lawyer, and I think that he needs to have his license revoked. Um, what do you call that little number, whatever? Because he absolutely knew that Richard had been exonerated, but yet he still acted to us that it was so bad that what Richard did that he could get 6 years in prison. He put on a show for us that what Richard did was so bad it could get 6 years in prison, and he deserved all of the retaliation that he got. That was the implications of what he was telling us. That he deserved the permanent GOMAR, that he deserved the chaptering, that he deserved the field grade Article 15 with maximum punishment. And this was all based on the DUI set-up charges that Richard had been exonerated in a pretrial diversion, and the SJA, trained in law, trained in the legal, did not inform us of that, and didn't even stop there, but used it to continue the narrative against the Vanessa Guillen first absent soldier. Wrap your head around that one. Against the that the DES, Thomas Kane, compared Richard's case to Vanessa Guillen because of all the murder and chopping up and everything like that, to Richard's case. And the SJA PP McGee, he wasn't wearing a uniform. when we met him at that stage task force find Richard Halliday with no operational orders, which, we've been doing a lot of research on what does that mean to not have the operational orders. And so today we finally, 3 years, we finally put that out, what that means, because I think people need to understand what this chain of command has put us through. That they did not wear a uniform, and that they acted so ugly. They acted so ugly, and they smeared Richard, the Vanessa Guillen first absent soldier, with something that he didn't even do. Something that he already, by downtown El Paso court, was already exonerated of. And they kept that from us, from explaining that to us. This is how they give you the packet, and the packets, we have laws that can fill up buildings and buildings and buildings, and that's why we depend on these lawyers and pay them very well to explain everything to us. And you would think that Colonel S.J.A. P.P. McGee, who doesn't seem to know how to take care of himself, um, would take out the time to explain to the family of the Vanessa Guillen first absent soldier, um, that Richard was exonerated. Would explain, and yeah, I am a little bit angry today. I really am. After angry, what do you call angry? I guess fed up, uh, uh, fed up not being able to show any emotion um, with this murderous chain of command they are. And they just want to damage us, instead of defending us. And they, we need the lawyers, we need the generals, but this group, what we have in there right now, they are, I think, treasonous. I think they are absolutely, when I think back, and I know that we're getting institutional support now. Praise God that we are. And I know there are good people in there that are so surrounded by such a terrible spirit that they are afraid to speak out. They're afraid to do what's right because they get retaliated against. I absolutely understand that. And they want to keep their jobs, and they have, bills to pay, and they have families. And I absolutely understand all of that. And that's why Team Find Richard Halliday is working so hard to drive some of these evil ones to do the right thing, to change the whole narrative so that it's not popular anymore to be the dirty agent, to be the dirty general, to be the dirty SJA, literally dirty SJA, PP McGee. But, to say, look, we need to be upright and make it popular again, make it the way to go to do the right thing so that the people will be released from their chains to a very corrupt system, a corrupt spirit. I hope that makes sense because, I used to be a teacher. I definitely understand. We were made to give our little kindergartners these bubble tests, and I was like, what? And if we didn't do it, of course, you could be fired, right? And I'm like, why am I giving a 5-year-old a bubble test, a little bubble test, when, I'm trying to teach them gross motor skills, or fine motor skills, right? Um, it was just insanity to me, but it's all about a business plan. It's all about the money. And they really didn't care about the results. They really don't care about the children. I absolutely, understand the situation that uh, employees are in, right? So we have this opportunity to change the narrative, to give the power to the majority to speak up. Can you imagine if the majority would speak up against the corruption? Then the whole system would move in a much better way, and so many lives would be saved. And so that's why we're speaking up because and I'm going to try to be calm. I'm going to try to be calm, but can you believe it? When you read through this right here, when you read through this, right? And you just think to yourself, wow, what they what they put people through. I just, and they make money off of it. Um and it's so unjust, and it's supposed to be called a justice system, and it's not a justice system at all, because the SJA, would you call it lying? Withholding information? Absolutely. Absolutely. And yes, he lied because he said Richard could have got 6 years in prison because they take underage drinking seriously. You know, this, yeah. So let's go into a different subject. And I don't know if this is going to make me happier or even more uh, impatient with all of the terrible things that they have done. Um, and I've put out today the summary report that we've been working on. Team Farm Richard Halliday has been very hard working, um, getting uh, things together the last few days, well, longer than that, challenging the walkaway narrative. And yesterday I did mention Nadal Baim's testimony, um, and then the Fort Bliss Congressional Inquiry Soldiers testimony, Leilani Hart's testimony, Deliris Montanez testimony, and the officer of the court, his testimony, and DES Thomas Kane's testimony. And I talked about that they have security clearance. For the most part, I think they all have security clearance. They all have access. I'm thinking Nadal Baim working for the FBI, of course he does. The soldier that's in the military, of course he has access to intelligence, of course. Leilani Hart has access, unauthorized access to information and intelligence. She was given that by her lover boyfriend that was, a CID special agent right there at Fort Bliss. And so she had access, and she also had access, I guess, through her husband to people's files at the IDES Pueblo, right? The disability benefits for veterans at the VA. That's where her husband works on that health board with access to everybody's files, sensitive files, even medical files. And so, um, and I know they're in a divorce, but no, when a business plan is a business plan is a business plan, right? Deliris Montanez, of course, she had clearance, being CBP and a lieutenant colonel in the Army. And then the officer of the court, of course, he has clearance. And then the chief of security of Fort Bliss, a DES, a director of emergency services, Thomas Kane, wearing several hats and being a professor at Park University along with the officer of the court. So they have access to loads of information. And don't forget that Thomas Kane compared Richard to Richard's case to Vanessa Guillen's case. And so I talked about how um, all of these testimonies uh, absolutely shattered the walk away theory that Richard just walked away, and that's six testimonies. So then last night, as we were going through the live streams, believe it was Danielle. She was like, "Okay, we need Electra, we need Crabby Empath." So absolutely, I have been um, made aware that the FBI and many other agencies use paranormals, use these people for information. And I don't know who they go to, but they do use them. So it does move and shake the investigations of agencies. And so, of course, uh, for Richard's disappearance, that's no difference. And so I did want to add those on. And, Electra seems to have it right, right? And Krabby Empath seems to have it right. And so I want to issue for, other people too, for things that happened. And yeah, I want to issue an apology to Electra. And, I'm so glad that she could pretty much take it with a grain of salt. Of course, she got angry. Of course, she had every right to get angry. Um, and but she's right. She was right at so many points. And emotions get very high. And in this case, millions of dollars have been used to thwart, to hide, to cover up, to give false narratives, to intimidate witnesses, to intimidate anyone that wants to help, to, tamper with evidence, tamper, even with that Tennessee vehicle. We're looking into that again. The Tennessee vehicle that was, you know, uh, information would be in the trunk of the car, and we feel like that needs to be revisited because of all the questions that we have now, right? All the questions that we have, we need to look into those things. So Murphy's Borough, Tennessee, I believe. And anyway, but we have those tags. We have the VIN number for that vehicle. And we haven't forgotten about the truck with the shaved handles. There's so many facets to this. But I wanted to really make sure that we had, yeah, there's so many facets that are putting together all of the information that proves that the narrative of Richard just walking away was not there. It was not there. And I kept telling, it might be on the lips of some people, but you know them by their action. You know them by their fruit and what they're doing. And you have, Lieutenant General Bernabe sending a group looking for Richard's remains on Fort Bliss and cooperating with this Department of State. And this is not my words. This is from people on Fort Bliss telling us. This is from the very mouth of Lieutenant General Sean Bernabe through Lieutenant Colonel Allie Payne a um, in an article that she is saying that he was looking for the remains of Richard on Fort Bliss and that he was cooperating with the State Department that was looking for Richard's remains in Mexico. So, of course, and then we have the autopsy reports, right? That's beside the point. That's beside the point, but he has never admitted to that. But he has admitted to looking for Richard's remains. So that is not the action of a general that believes that Richard walked away, right? So that whole narrative and that Richard is some kind of criminal, that is also not the narrative that you would act like that on, right? And so the other uh, exactly that I added that to the list, and the other that I added, and I'm going to add Dirty Agent Soto's, but I haven't uh, put that all together. We're still working on that. Um, but we did put together General James McConville. Now, James McConville retired. All these people are retiring, all these people are leaving. They don't want, they're washing their hands of the blood that they have on it. And I do say that. I do say that, and I mean that. I really do. Because where is Judge Robert Lee Shook? Where is James McConville? Where is Lieutenant General Sean Bernabe? Where is Major General Clem Coward? Where is General Garrett? General Garrett was Richard's four-star general. Where is he? You know, they retire and they go and they get these CEO jobs, and they've done so much damage to our country, so much damage to our loved ones, and and they maintain these narratives. And I want to make it very, very clear that the narratives are for the public, but that's not the main target of these narratives. The narratives in Richard's case, the main target was the law enforcement agencies. Okay? So this small group targeted the law enforcement agencies with their narrative so that they could stop them from doing their job. That is the damage that this chain of command did. And so I wanted to add General James McConville's actions and his decisions to stage a task force operation to find Richard Halliday, but without issuing an operational order. Without the issuance of operational orders, is it's such, you just don't do that, right? You just don't do that. The Army doesn't do anything unless it has an operational order, unless there's an order given, and that there is some kind of order in the order, right? So it's as we stated, a blatant disregard for established military protocol, and is a betrayal that cuts to the core. Where does it cut to? To the search for the Vanessa Guillen first absent soldier. People need to understand that what they were doing to Richard, they were doing to Vanessa Guillen all over again. Okay, they were pulling another Vanessa Guillen all over again. And that is what Thomas Kane was talking about and comparing it to. This was another Vanessa Guillen. They didn't want us to find Richard's remains, just like they didn't want the Guillen family to ever have Vanessa's remains. Okay, they didn't. I can honestly say that because I've talked to people. And you do not call off a search when you find the Pelican case that has the blood, that has the DNA of the person that you are searching for. You call in reinforcements and you go and comb the area. You comb it. But no, they called off the search. They did not get the reinforcements. And so they did not want to find Vanessa Guillen's remains. That was a gift from God to find her remains. And I pray all the time that God will bless us with that. And that's bittersweet, right? because, um, to find Richard's remains, I mean, just thinking about it is just absolutely heartbreaking. But to see how they treated Richard, a whistleblower, don't forget that, a whistleblower, and to let him be retaliated against, and then to see that he was retaliated against, and then to know that the basis, the foundation that they used to legally cover themselves with their bullying and their retaliation had fell, had totally crumbled because Richard was exonerated, and to see the chain of command still continue that blatant smear, that retaliation, that setup, right, on the Vanessa Guillen first absent soldier. I think that is really, really important for everybody to understand what decision James McConville was really making. And the operational orders are not mere paperwork. They represent the backbone of military actions, and they are the legal and ethical framework, right, of every operation, and it guides every operation. And you can't just have some rogue army go out there. You have to have, an operational order, and they are the bounds of the law with, all the things that we hold dear, as far as morals and ethics goes, right? And so without these orders, there is a dangerous precedence being allowed to happen, because now the consequences for people to continue to do crimes, right? Because there's no operational order, so you can do war crimes, you can do any kind of crime on your own soldiers. There's no control over the local authorities, the governments, or even no control over your own soldiers when they're acting in a foreign territory, a foreign country like Mexico. This is really, and I see that maybe we really need to rewrite this for people to really understand. But I hope you understand what it means to not have operational orders and to carry out an operation like that. They didn't. That's why they didn't. They never carried out the mission, because without an operational order, the risk is too great. But they did the damage to their reputation, right? To the integrity of the entire military and the chain of command. And I'm putting it in German, and I'm going to put it in Korean, and I'm going to put it in Spanish, and people are going to know that the integrity of the entire military chain of command is now being scrutinized, because we've got to get it scrutinized in order to get these treasonous leaders out of there and get it strong again, so that we have a strong country, that we have a strong military, and that we have a fighting force, that we actually have their six, that we actually have esprit de corps, that we actually have the Medal of Honor ethos in our military. Because right now, it's not a Medal of Honor ethos. They are attacking each other within the military, and the chain of command is allowing it to happen and continuing it to happen and participating in the crimes. That's what they're doing. And it is a disregard of established procedures and accountability, because now they don't even want to be held accountable. Without operational orders, there is no accountability, because there's no operational orders. So they can do whatever they want. It's the implications are so terrible. military operations, particularly those in foreign nations, and Richard is an international case because it goes over and includes Mexico. That's why the Mexican government was there at the meeting. That's why the Mexican military was there at the meeting. That's why guns were involved, because that's why ATF was there at the meeting. And so the political and diplomatic um, issues are there in Richard's case. And to proceed without an operational order, without proper authorization, can you imagine? This is so bad what they did. And, so this staged Find Richard Halliday Task Force, that was a decision made by General James McConville, 4-star general, with all what we have given him. You understand? He has it made. He had his own people to take care of his house, drivers, people to take care of his uniform. He had big staff, aides, everything, and 100% retirement. Going into retirement, there's, not a percentage. He gets 100%. So we take care of our generals, but he needed to do his duty, and he didn't. He breached the agreement with the American people. Okay? And so he needs to forfeit all of the luxuries that we have given him. Because what he has done is international damage. What he has done is so criminal to our country. So this, and we're getting that institutional support now. So I can actually say it and think maybe, because I'm getting word that CID agent Soto is former CID agent Soto, and he's a dirty agent. Okay, so it's a good thing that he's a former, and I'm hoping the information is right. Sorry, but reading through all of this, it gets me a little fired up. Reading through all of what I saw that Richard had to go through, and then to be murdered on top of that, to be dismembered, to be his remains to be in different locations, and it to be hidden, and people having to question the family, saying what, and they're not admitting to it. No, they're not admitting to it. It's shh. Remember the FBI man? When you read through all of this over and over again, it's so clear. All of those pieces, right? Morsel by morsel, we've put this together, and we see this clear picture of what they did to Richard. And so I get fired up because, I have the right as his mother to defend him, to advocate for him. And, our family, we have a love for our country. So to see the damage they did to our family, the damage they did to our loved one, and then to see the damage they're doing to our country, what they've done to our country, our loved one, we love our country. It gets you fired up. It really does. And I hope that we can drive these people. This is why I come on here, to drive these people, because there are people in there like Veronica Escobar that's clearly up to no good, but she has no choice if we drive her to support her soldier. She is supposed to support her soldier. She is supposed to support this request for a congressional inquiry, okay? And we need to drive her to do that, whether she wants to do it or not. That is her duty, to give this soldier that is a witness in Richard's case, that has something to say about Richard's case, and that has concerns about the security of Fort Bliss, to give him a congressional inquiry. I think it's very, very important. And we know through Lieutenant General Sean Bernabe and through General McConville and by Lieutenant General Donna Martin and by General Garrett and by Major General, and I'll try to formulate all of that with fine Richard Halliday and put that up, how these, all of them and their actions declare loudly that the narrative is not that Richard walked away, but that he was abducted and he was murdered. Okay? Abducted and murdered. It's very, very clear. So, yeah, this was a really good statement, too. The lack of operational orders creates a vacuum of accountability and responsibility within the operation. Absolutely, they didn't want any accountability. They don't want to sign their name to anything. They don't want to give us, a formal document because they don't want to, have a needle stuck in them on death row. Because that is the level of crime this is. Right? They don't want the death penalty. So, in summary, General McConville's decision to proceed with a task force operation without a proper issuance of operational orders is not merely a procedural misstep. It is a profound breach of military protocol that carries wide-ranging negative consequences, including legal, operational, reputational risk. As Team 5 Richard Halliday, we were left with a sense of betrayal as the very institutions entrusted with upholding justice appear to have veered far from their duty. We remain resolute in our pursuit of truth and justice for Richard Halliday. And the other statement that needs to be made between General McConville and Lieutenant General Sean Bernabe is that the initiation of such efforts implies concerns about the potential security breach, whether within the military base or in external territories. So this is a border problem. This is a security breach problem, and it's very clear over and over and over again. It's clear that this is a huge problem, and it hasn't gone away. All right, it hasn't gone away because in 2023 we have the Colonel Adamczyk that saw found in his health and welfare check all of these unregistered guns illegally stored in the barracks and more stuff. So, and this is right after, and then today, I can't even keep up with the news. Today, there was another soldier that put out a shot right at Cincinnati area. So shot out into the crowd, or I have to read that article again. I put it up there because this just shows you that here we have been doing this for 3 years, telling them there's a problem with flush with weapons. The barracks are flush with weapons and marketplaces for illegal drugs. And there's a problem with all the failures in the rapes and the sexual assaults and the sexual harassment and the suicides and the retaliation and everything. We just keep repeating it day in and day out. And these leaders don't get the message. They don't get the message. They are still putting our sons and daughters in danger right there on Fort Bliss, right there on Fort Hood or Fort Covassos. You can't just change a place by changing its name. They're putting our sons and daughters in danger. They're not making changes, even with us telling them over and over that's what they want, what we want, and they work for us. So what's their problem? They are betraying us, right? That's the problem. They are working for foreign and domestic enemies of this country. It's very clear. And so those that are not, um, they need to be supported. They need to be supported. And that's what that petition is all about. So if you haven't signed it, please sign it and and get others to sign it. We need lots and lots and lots of signatures. So yeah, that's very important to support those that want to do the right thing. And this soldier, this active duty Fort Bliss soldier, is doing the right thing by asking for uh, the congressional inquiry. So if you have any questions, thank you, Mitzi. Thank you, Donna. Thank you, Anicia. Thank you, Danielle. Praying for justice. Thank you so much. And this is just putting all of these morsels together and making our case. And, we have enough. I'm going to tell you this right now. We have enough. We have enough. And it's just getting it all put together. And it definitely, with the courts, with a couple of warrants, and I'm sure they already have the information, because they won't tell us where these warrants are, and we have the right to know. We have all these open records requests, and they're slowly trickling in, and they reveal so much. And like this case with Richard being exonerated uh, from January of 2020, I mean, that's what all this is showing, and it's leading to names, and the names have connections, and it's like, wow, wow, they had it all figured out. But you know what? God doesn't like to be mocked, and God protects his children, and so we need to keep going to protect our country, to protect our children, and we thank you so much. It is so crucial to have your support, to have you share, and to let people understand what's going on. And we really, really appreciate it so much. So, okay, until tomorrow, I'll be back, God willing.